Well, welcome everyone. We're here today with Tech Tuesday with IP Day, and our presentation today is focusing on monitoring student progress using quick and easy spreadsheets. And my name here is Ariel Pachokas. I'm the Director of Adult and Community Education with Collier County Public Schools, and I have with me today.
Hi everyone, my name is Vanessa Alvarez, and I deal with our online programs here with Collier County Adult Education.
And before we get started, we have a couple of housekeeping tips. Today's presentation, if you have any questions along the way, please make sure to use the Q&A. That one is available. All attendees' microphones are muted and you're in listen-only mode. And today's presentation is being recorded and will be archived and available on the IP Day's website. And as we continue to move forward, our focus for today is really trying to establish the why spreadsheets and how can we use spreadsheets to really support our students, and how do we collect that information that might be best usable for our students and, more importantly, our teachers as well. And then also, as we create these spreadsheets, how we might be able to share them and update them with multiple stakeholders within our organization.
I wonder, how are other people using spreadsheets? If you want to tell us if you are currently using spreadsheets, how do you use them, and anything else that you might want to get out of today's webinar.
Yeah, if you want to take a moment in the chat box, how are some of you currently using spreadsheets, if you are? And if you are not, what are some of the challenges with using them? So I see right now a couple of messages coming in already. Some individuals use them to track students, learning plans I see for their students. And I think a lot of this, absolutely, we use them to communicate as well, gather information and communicate, track data and compare from year to year. So excellent. We're going to let those progress monitoring. So the why of spreadsheets for us, we've established using them. It was really, we've always used them in our online programs, but the pandemic really got us to a new level. It created an opportunity for us we needed a tool to ensure that we were connecting with all of our students, that we weren't forgetting any of our students. And we had multiple staff members involved in that process to, one, monitor how our students were doing, but also to ensure that all of our students were connecting and we were connecting with them. So it really provides us at-a-glance data very easily. We have a pretty robust student management system. We use Focus. And while that is a great system, it's not always the most friendly system when I need information right now and I have 30 bodies sitting in front of me, whether in a physical classroom or in an online classroom, and I want to be able to capture notes or be able to capture information of where I left off with a particular student. If we think about a one-room schoolhouse is often in adult education, or we're working with ABE students and one student's working on reading, another one's working on math, another's got science, and they're all at different levels. These spreadsheets allow us to kind of really quickly hone in on where we left off with that student, where we need to move them to, and what are those next steps. Any other pieces, Vanessa?
Yeah, I don't know about you all, but my emails get buried with time, and sometimes I could just walk away from my desk and I come back and there's 20 emails there. So spreadsheets make it easy. If I put it in the spreadsheet, I don't need to worry about where my email went about a particular student or a particular situation. So it's great to have it just all in one place. I don't have to click multiple different places to find the information I need. We've also found it to be a great accountability tool. So for example, our online teachers enter their attendance not only on the spreadsheet, but in Focus. Focus is our student management system. So this is a way for us to make sure that what they're entering in the spreadsheet is matching up with our data on Focus. So it holds us accountable, our teachers accountable, but we're also able to hold our students accountable because we can find all that information in one place.
And then again, if you're running an online program, that accountability tool is critical for when we get monitored and audited. Our online programs operate a little differently. So our spreadsheets really allow us to show any auditor coming in of what that contact time with students was, what the conversation, all the way down to the conversations if someone really needed to know. So then what do we include? What information? Well, this really depends on the end user. Depending on our program, depending on how we're operating, we might have multiple end users, everything from admin to the teacher, all the way down to support staff that are assisting those teachers in monitoring and tracking. So when we create our spreadsheets, we're pulling in our student information, their contact information, which is critical, those emails and those phone numbers. We're pulling in the test scores, their initial tests, and then as they continue with us, their post-test to see their progress. We work with a lot of second language learners, so the language they speak at home or their country of origin helps us tremendously when we communicate with them. We have their learning goals, their notes, their goals as far as what aspirations or what IET programs they might be interested in transitioning to, all the way down to even challenges. With our most recent hurricane just previously, we had notes in there in reference to how many of them had lost connectivity, how many of our students were going to pause out for a little bit, or which ones we weren't able to connect with, to ensure that we were ensuring that we were providing all of our resources to those that needed the most.
The nice thing about this is some of these things can be automated. So for example, we like to use Focus to pull a lot of that data.
So we quickly just take a look at our advanced reports from Focus. And again, every program is a little different. And whichever student management system you use, we know that you're able to pull that information out. And so we quickly just identify the main pieces being the student contact information, the student info, but then we get all the way down to the dates the students tested, their NRS levels, and whether it was for reading, whether it was for math, or whether it was for a language or listening. So that helps us very quickly and easily create a spreadsheet that's usable to the end user. So here's a sample one.
So this is an example of a spreadsheet that we're using right now. This is actually from last semester, but we have the same spreadsheet going for this semester. This is for one of our online classes, and these are advanced English learners. So some of them have ESOL scores and some of them have ABE scores, and they're all just trying to improve their English. A lot of them are advanced learners, not only from here, but also from their home country. So I'm just going to take a just quick look at what's on your screen right now, and we'll dive deeper into these as well. But you can see there is identification information. We've kind of hidden some of that for now, but in real life, you would see their first and last name, their real student number. Birth date can be important because sometimes we use that for password information or other identification information. Start date, some of that is again for other stakeholders like our data entry. Also helps us make sure that we are giving the correct information to data entry. And then we have testing information in there. As they post-test, I'll add more scores into the spreadsheet so that I can see and my teachers can see how tests have changed or improved over time. And then things like phone number and email, like Ariel mentioned, to contact students. If email doesn't work, phone number is the next thing I'm going to use. And then we have their native language and where they're from. I find that that is helpful for helping students to build community as well in their course, and also helps me with setting up, we use Burlington in this particular course, and helps me set that up correctly as well. And you'll notice that there's two sets of notes. One says notes, this stays there for the semester, and then it got a little bit cut off, but you'll see it in a little bit. There's another column for additional information. So the notes, those are things that will never change. I don't want anyone to delete anything in there that semester. Things like their educational background is helpful for trying to direct students to their next goal. And then the additional information, those are things that can change throughout the semester. Sometimes we clean this up. I even put a little note in there, please remember to clean this up. Some things stay in there the whole time. So I know that someone else just mentioned that they also use spreadsheets for after the hurricane. We had Hurricane Ian just recently, and we had to figure out who was able to resume classes, who might need a little extra time or support. So you can see that a lot of those notes in there stayed there for the entire semester. And that just helped us remember what's going on with our students, and maybe why they might not have as many hours or time. And then last but not least, this is an online program that's entirely asynchronous. So we track their hours, and this is a way that we are able to manage all of that. We know how many hours for participation the student has each week, and then cumulative as well.
So you can really quickly see here what a wonderful tool this is from a teacher's perspective. And one little snapshot, I'm looking right now at 4 students, but if I were to scroll down, I would have 30 some students on my roster, and they're all right here. And so as I'm working with students, or as I'm needing to reach out to students, I don't have to go to my student management system and search for their name or their ID number to look up their phone number. I've got it all in one quick spot. I'm also able to see who's coming up with, based on their participation hours, who's coming up to post-testing, who needs additional time, or who's not participating, because those are critical ones. We often think that it's adult education is challenging in a traditional form, in a traditional classroom setting, where we lose our students because life gets in the way. Well, online, when we don't even see our students, this becomes even more so of a challenge. But if we have the right tools, and this is one of those, this helps us ensure that we don't let many days go by before following up and connecting with those students again. Because online is so much more complex, it's not just the teacher connecting, we have support staff that are also assisting in ensuring that they're connecting with the students. And so this really allows a team of individuals to be able to see our students' information all at one time, but also identify those that need additional support. Here, if you're looking at perhaps Gabby on this list, we see that under the notes, we see that after the hurricane, she was doing okay and was going to continue. But the student right above it, Sal, after the hurricane he had some difficulties, was working on moving, and had internet issues. So that really gives us an opportunity to see how we can better support and assist them, and what other resources we need to follow up with.
You also note, just real quick, that under the additional information, you'll notice there are dates and initials in there. This is me working with another teacher, and sometimes it helps to put my initials in there because we're both, using the same spreadsheet. But we have other classes where there are 3, 4, even more people involved in a spreadsheet. So initials and dates become really important, or you lose track of, okay, well, who contacted the student? When did they contact the student? So that's another thing that's really important with these spreadsheets.
So as we keep moving forward, some suggestions with spreadsheets. We've been using them for a while, but really one of the best tools that we've come across that has helped us tremendously is either, we're a Microsoft school district here, so we use Microsoft 365, but Google Drive has a tremendous platform as well. And really what they allow is the shareable platform, where multiple hands can be in a spreadsheet at the same time. And it's online, so that whether we're working in one site or there's another person from another site, multiple locations, individuals are able to access the same information all at the same time. And they are live documents. So as something gets updated, it's updated instantaneously for everybody, and multiple hands in at the same time. One of the big pieces we've also worked on, and I know Vanessa will talk more about it as well, is establishing protocols or a common language or a shorthand for when we're completing or using these spreadsheets. That's important, especially if you think about how we also utilize spreadsheets to kind of drill down on information. So sometimes we do a search and we want to filter out specific content. If we use a specific kind of shorthand or notes or a protocol for it, we're always collecting and being able to gather the information that we're interested in a very simplistic manner. An example of that is, as we start up a new IET program, or we're start coming to a new semester, in a particular case, we might have drafting. We might filter through and say, what were those, out of the 300 students or 400 students that we might have connected, which one of those we're interested in drafting, and then we can personalize emails directly shout out to them, inviting them to our next drafting IET program. So that's just a quick example.
And then training teachers and emphasizing the importance of tracking monitoring. I can't overemphasize. We have kind of a joke in online that if it's not in the spreadsheet, it didn't happen. And that's because if we don't have that in the spreadsheet and someone just tells me something in passing, well, I might be hearing 20 different things between that and the next thing that I have to do. And now I forgot what I need to take care of for that student. So we always emphasize that it's really important that any information that we share about that student is in that spreadsheet. As the more important it is, the more important it is to be in that spreadsheet. So we always say if it's not in the spreadsheet, it didn't happen. They start to realize how important it is as time goes on. Sometimes you get a little bit of resistance in the beginning when you're introducing spreadsheets. Spreadsheets can sound scary to people, but as they learn how to use the spreadsheets, which we support them in, and then they start to see more better information being shared between all of us, then they start to see the relevance of those as well.
And I think that it's important to kind of talk about training individuals to use spreadsheets, because I kind of sense there's a fear of spreadsheets out there. The fear that, you know, I think people get overwhelmed when we talk about Excel or using some kind of a spreadsheet, and it's really just another way of organizing information and utilizing a tool to make our work easier and more efficient. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the tools?
Yeah, so in a moment, I'm going to be demonstrating some of these tools to make work easier. And if you want to go ahead and transition, Ariel,
Sure.
Summarize them as we go. So I'm going to be showing you some tools to help make spreadsheets work better. It makes communication a little clearer. So we're going to be talking a little bit about sum of hours, and I see the comment there, and I totally understand the total fear. So I was there in your place in the beginning, and now I feel like I'm almost a spreadsheet pro.
So right now you should be able to see one of our spreadsheets. This is one of our live documents, or a sample of it.
Yeah, so I'm going to show you a sum of hours as example. So what I learned to do, oops, there we go.
Bear with us.
Sorry, it's one moment. There we go. Thank you. Need a little tech support from Ariel here. All right, so you can see sum of hours, right? Under total hours, column U. I didn't know how to do anything in Excel, so I totally understand what you're saying here. I'm just going to delete this one for a second so you can see how easy it is to set up. And all of this is Googleable, so to speak. I use Google frequently and YouTube to help me. So under total hours, I just click this nice little auto sum button, and you can see a little formula pops up. I'm just going to drag my mouse and click on all the different columns I want it to summarize. Press enter, and now I have a sum of hours for that student. And there's a way that you can do that for all of your students. I can just copy it, and then I paste it into the next one, and it's going to create a new unique sum for that student, their rows. So it sounds scary to do sums, but it's really not. And this all right here to your right of column U is Canvas and Burlington by the week. So this is an online class. Every week we have to track their hours. XXX means that they weren't even in the class yet. And then you can see where their hours begin. And that's what we're summarizing there.
So, and this is one of those tools that our teachers use to really track, and this is an expectation that we've placed on the teachers to take their attendance, specifically in the online world. Why do we use this? Like we said before, we use it for our purposes for supporting students, but then we also use it for auditing. When we get audited, we submit quite a few hours for our online programs. Our online programs have been very robust and well attended. And so we know that auditors are going to come in and say, hey, you've put this many hours for this particular student. How are you gathering those hours? Can you show us? Can you prove it to us? And so we can easily pull this up, and we have this historically archived.
Yep. And you can even notice, for example, that this student, Mary, she had 0 hours for a couple of weeks. If we look at additional information, you can see why. We had a hurricane. And then she took a little time to, get her things back together, as we all did, and then she was able to resume again. So the next thing I want to demonstrate is wrapping text. So currently I have my text wrapped, but if I unwrap it, well, there's a whole bunch of stuff up here that I'm not seeing. So when you're initially creating a spreadsheet and you need to hand type something in, and it's going to look like this, there's just a simple tool here at the top. I just highlight what I want wrapped. I could do a whole column if I want. Okay, and now I have it all wrapped. And that just means that it brings the text down. I can see it all within the cell. Sometimes with Microsoft 365, I still need to play around with the row size, but it's all going to show up in that cell. So wrapping text just makes it easy to see everything at a glance without having to try to look up here in that text box up there. You'll also notice that in our additional information where we are constantly communicating back and forth, that I have some things in red. So I established that system, actually my predecessor established the system with teachers so that anything in red means, hey, this is new information. And after that teacher has seen it, I ask them to turn it black again. And now I know that student or that teacher saw my information, they got it, we're all good there.
And that's one of those examples of those protocols that we've built in to help communicate more, to help us communicate more efficiently between the administrative side of the house with the teachers or that support side of the house, so that we're all working in a common direction. Remember, we've got multiple students that we're all touching with multiple different hands. So this is just an easier way for us to ensure that nobody's being missed.
So for example, since that's a protocol I established, if I see that there's a lot of red text and it's been more than a few days or a week, whatever you establish with your teachers, now I'm a little concerned. Is everything okay with that teacher? They don't seem to be acknowledging, the information I put in the spreadsheet. So it just makes it easier for us to know that the other person has acknowledged what we have to say. And so I can always click in here and I can bold anything that is, particularly important that I want them to know or pay attention to. And then the rest of the text is regular text. So it's just another example of highlighting new or important information within our spreadsheets.
And again, we might have 5 to 8 different hands touching these spreadsheets depending on the time. On a regular basis, we easily have 3. That would be between a teacher or 2. Some of our classes have two teachers that support each other and support students, along with the administrator, along with the support staff. So on a regular basis, easily 3 to 4 teachers or staff members.
Good question. It depends on the course, but yeah, we have a lot of people involved in all of our spreadsheets. So sometimes what happens is we may have a student that needs to withdraw from the class, and it can get really confusing for the teachers when you have 50-something students that have come and gone throughout the class, half of which are still in your class, maybe have something happened after the hurricane. That might be a little dramatic, but you get the idea. So to make it easier, so for example, let's say that Selma was not able to resume classes. I can highlight her entire row, and then it depends on whether you're using Microsoft or Google, they're a little bit different. But if I right click, I can now hide that row. And now later, if I need to go back to look for this person for auditing purpose, I can unhide and find them. But in the meantime, I like to hide them so that the teacher is not bogged down with names they don't at that moment need to deal with. So hiding rows can be very helpful for making it easier for teachers to navigate.
And that's a very important piece for us. We never delete anything from here because, like I mentioned before, this is our running record and this is a historical document for us for auditing purposes.
And same thing with columns. There's times that maybe post-testing may not be particularly important at that time. So I might hide it as a coordinator or administrator just to make it a little easier for my teachers. And then when post-testing time comes around, I just highlight the columns before and after, and then I can unhide those columns again. So it just keeps a running record there, but we can hide things just to make it a little easier for everyone to navigate. So that also brings up freezing columns and rows. So if you notice, I have a lot of information from left to right, a lot of columns. I need to be able to see who I'm talking about when I get this far in the spreadsheet. So something that I make sure that I do for each spreadsheet is I'm going to highlight the column, or select the column, I should say. And sometimes this is a little more difficult. So I type into the search bar, freeze column, and you can see that it's automatically going to be frozen. So now when I scroll over, that first column stays with me. Same thing with rows. When I have a lot of students I'm dealing with, I need to see what columns I'm even talking, or rows, yeah, columns I'm talking about. But since this is showing as a row, I need to freeze the top row. And now it's going to stay with me wherever I go. And then the last thing that I really want to emphasize is restoring version history. So it may seem a little scary to be sharing the spreadsheet with 3, 4, maybe 5 other people. And you're like, oh no, well, what if this person, messes things up? Or, oh my God, someone deleted this whole row. Where is it? The great thing about online spreadsheets is version history. So I'm just going to type that into the search bar. You can see it comes up automatically. And again, Google has something very similar. And now I can look at previous versions of the spreadsheet. This one's from October 14th, when it was perhaps the most recently live. And it's moving slow at the moment, but normally we would have the spreadsheet. Yep, there we go. Okay, and it's going to show a previous version. Okay, so if I wanted to restore it, which I don't want to, I would click restore. So I could do that as much as a year ago or 2 years ago, or as little as 5 minutes ago, I screwed something up. I just can go into version history and restore the version of where I was. No harm done. So no one needs to panic if a whole row gets deleted by accident. And then while we are switching back to our PowerPoint, we are going to be talking about mail merge. And we do use mail merge with our spreadsheets and Word documents to automate emails that go out to our students.
And that is really an amazing tool if you really want to organize or launch your program a little further than you have before, or so communicate things a little bit more efficiently with your students participating. And let me go ahead and kind of show you what we're talking about. Let's move forward. So before we jump into that, so we're going to get into some variations and uses. So we used our spreadsheets to for communication. A mail merge is one example that we use it, but we use it really to communicate with new students coming in, whether they're in a traditional classroom setting or online. We use it to kind of welcome them and let them know where their classes are, what location, what time, what room number, where they can be reporting to. And it's amazing to see students walking onto the campus for the first time, but having an email on their phone already going to the right classroom and location without any need of guidance or support from anybody. The other way we use this is when we welcome new students to the online world. And exactly. I'll let Vanessa share a little bit about that.
So I'm actually getting ready to do that this week and weekend. I'm going to be taking 200 students, and instead of writing an email to each one, which there's no way I would have time to do all that, I'm going to be using a mail merge to send them a welcome email. And they're going to have their class links, their Zoom links for the morning and the evening session. And the students know to look for this email, and they will know to click on the links for their first day of class. So we do use the mail merge with the online as well.
In addition, I think the big piece is also the monitoring the student progress. But let's take a look at some variations. So here we have another sample. This sample, this is an example of our jail program, actually. Our correction program. And here we have the instructor who utilizes this, not because he's communicating with other staff members or anything like that, but really because he's working with a pretty large group of students. We have one instructor at our correctional facility. He works with both ESOL students and ABE GED students within different blocks or within different settings. and he meets with them potentially on different days as well. So this really helps him keep track of where they are working, where they left off last, and what are their next steps. And so here you can see a sample of a couple of his students. As we look across, we can see when they started, when they last tested. He keeps a running record of what subject areas they tested, how they did in math, how they did in reading, where they are in listening. So he's able to see their gains from one moment to the next. And being at the jail, we have a captive audience, and they gain hours rather quickly. So it's important for us to make sure that we're staying on top of them and their progress. And things in the correctional facilities also change rather quickly. Things happen that they are moved from one block to another, and we might not have that ability. So we're always trying to stay very timely on top of each individual student. As in this particular case, each color means something different. So if you haven't caught on, the yellows are the ESOL students, the orange are the ABE students, and the green are the GED students. And you can see where they're scheduled in, and this is critical because now here he uses this spreadsheet to ensure that this is reflective of where the student is scheduled, also in what we report to the state, and ensuring that the post-tests that we do are in the appropriate subject areas as well. And if you look towards the bottom, through the concentrations, we're starting to incorporate IET at our correctional facility. So as students are progressing, he's already keeping a track of who's interested in what next steps they need to take. And I think even at the bottom, sometimes our students have, even at the jail, they have their own pace in mind. The one in green at the bottom is waiting until his next court date in December before he takes his GED. So we're working in tandem with them to ensure their success.
And the color coding, there's no right or wrong way to do color coding. It just adds to the at a glance feature to make it just easy for everyone to understand what that color means.
So here's a whole different color coding. We've gone into more of a pastels here, but really this is a class. This is one of our IET classes where students are in the program. I'll let Vanessa speak more to this one.
So this is our paraprofessional class, and this is in conjunction with working with Bloomboard. So this is a spreadsheet that Bloomboard started, and then I kind of took over and went with it. And it looks scary at a glance, but that's because we kind of came up with our own code as it went. So if someone were to look at this and not know what all our codes mean, it would be confusing, but we work together. So the blue ones, that you don't see anything, that's because they completed a micro-credential or a micro-endorsement. And then the individual cells are kind of color-coded to show where that student may have earned not part of a micro-credential, an artifact, or where they might need to go back and revise, where they might be waiting for feedback from the assessor. And then you see that orange one in the middle, that I made it a different color because it's different than all the other ones that I wanted to stand out and remember to talk to that student. They completed it, but they had one more step they had to do to submit it. So this just helped me track where the students were as we went through the semester. And again, at a glance, without having to click back and forth and look at each student, I knew kind of where they were in the class.
And again, what we're trying to do here is showcase a couple of different scenarios and variations of how different classes, different programs, different teachers are utilizing it. And as we get into more complex programs, and I think this is a great example of it, there is additional tracking and monitoring that we want to ensure that the students understand. So then as we get to the tail end of it, one of our other uses that I mentioned is the mail merge and how we communicate with our students. And so at the top, you see that we have a little sample snapshot of a spreadsheet. Here's 3 different colors, a yellow, orange, and a green. Different students, all attending all ESOL students, all attending the same duration, all in the advanced level, but going into different classrooms. Again, when we're bringing in 300-400 students, and we're going to be letting them know of which classroom they're going to be going to, We first create our spreadsheets. This makes it easy for us to identify who we have coming in, when they're going to be starting, where they're going, all the way down to even helping our data entry schedule the students. So we have all the information on one little spot. But then from here, we can do an easy mail merge where we send a personalized email to each one of those students and welcome them to the fall semester, spring semester, whichever, and they know exactly what program or class they're going into, what days that class is meeting, the time they're going to be the time that it meets, and the room number that they're going to be meeting in. And we do the exact same thing with the online students, where they're, instead of receiving a classroom number, they're getting a Zoom invitation or a WebEx invitation. And then of course, we always include some kind of contact. The flip side of this is we're providing students with a very transparent, very predictable way of, and making them feel very comfortable for that first initial setting that they're going to be walking into. On the other side of it, the students let us know, because we're human on the other side of this. We make mistakes as well. When they receive this ahead of time and they already know that either what they were expecting, and if it's different from that, they're emailing us back or calling us and letting us know, hey, this is what I received, but this isn't really what I need or what I wanted, and we need to reschedule them appropriately. So before classes even start, we've already cleaned up our class list, ensuring that students are in the appropriate seats.
And a lot of our seasoned students, they know to look for the online welcome email. And they know if they haven't received a welcome email by the first day of class, there might be something wrong. So it also helps us identify small mistakes that happen. Sometimes they might change their email address or something like that. And that's how we catch the mistakes before that first day of class as well.
So we've made it to our tail end of our presentation. Hopefully this was meaningful. Hopefully it was helpful, but more importantly now, we need your feedback. And this is a way of letting us know of what was helpful, what was useful, and obviously IPDA is always interested in creating new webinars for all of us. So please take a moment and complete the poll that was just launched. While you're doing that, tomorrow, January 11th at 3 p.m., Yolanda and I will be again presenting a webinar titled Moving Forward with Collaboration, a practical approach. And this is where Yolanda and I are going to be highlighting the next steps of how do we put ourselves, how do we organize ourselves to be most effective as we continue to move forward with collaboration. So we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow, and thank you for your time.